District 4, District 4, District 5, District 6,
Present.
District 7,
Present.
District 8.
I'm here.
Yeah. I had to read the whole thing and I was like,
Am I the only one who can't hear anything you guys are saying?
No, we've lost
I don't
audio
hear anything.
online. The last
Yeah.
I heard was District 8 say she was present.
Mute the mute the speaker.
Yeah. Well,
Can y'all hear us online now?
Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
how do we get the reverb to go away?
Why don't you? Oh, because this will turn them down.
What do we do?
He's coming.
I can give it a try. The reverb is.
Everyone who's tuned virtually, since our audience will answer their, that's their microphones and that, that's, to make that. Sorry. That's it.
Is it? Testing. Can you online here as well?
Yes.
All right, so everybody walk around. Everybody check, make sure your laptop's unmuted. Giving it to somebody's speaker.
The speakers.
Perhaps that's locked into device. I mean, it has to be in order for us to hear that.
We weren't having this issue last time, were we?
Well, we do this one down and then let's get the pain room.
No, we're still getting feedback in here, even though the speaker is turned all the way down.
Do we need to turn the speakers in the room off?
But then I wonder if we'll be able to hear our online commissioners. I mean, we can try and send it forward and see how distracting it is.
Did you get it? So,
That thing, have an echo.
so someone needs to, are you the co-host or the host of the meeting?
Host.
To see who's unmuted.
Everyone's muted.
There's a lot of business.
See that business actually.
Are we any better now?
A little bit better.
Did you say something, Mike?
Yeah, you're a little bit better now. Now they're talking.
You got that microphone on. Is it on mute? Yeah, I mean, when you go through our participants, everybody's muted.
Yeah, we checked that already. Everybody is muted except the,
Because other room, the room is open, and everybody else.
is muted. And those two are muted or that, are you running it from the?
I'm presenting off of that, but that's muted. I mean, there I am, muted.
I'm not thinking it might be Tom's.
It's weird.
It's not me.
So I'm not muted?
Says you are, that's your lot. What's that bringing this from?
I don't think I'm even connected to audio.
Michael, does your audio connected?
Not mine, sure.
Yours. It's.
I'm not connected to audio. Okay, so once more, people online, if you do have an issue, just holler.
If we could hear.
If, maybe we can't hear you if you do that, but do what you can. So I'm just gonna move on. So this one is at I-30 near Fair Park. I think I'm okay here. I don't just, I can read. This is an application for a planned development district for WMU5 walkable urban mixed use district uses on property zoned in IR and Industrial Research District. It's on the southwest line of South Haskell Avenue, southeast of Interstate 30. It's 2.69 acres. And so the purpose of the request is to allow for modified development standards, primarily related to parking, landscaping, design standards, open space, and mixed income housing to develop the site with multifamily or retail uses. So here's our site as it exists today. There's some undeveloped property on it, some light industrial warehousing that still remains on it. And we're just east of 30. And so to the north, there's undeveloped tech stop right away currently. There's office showrooms to the west, office showrooms to the east, then I-30s to the northeast. There's some undeveloped land to the direct east, right, but before you get to Perry Avenue. And then across the Santa Fe Trail, across the Dart right of way, there's office uses, multifamily, personal service uses in a couple of buildings along Commerce Street. And so it's, again, currently zoned to IR Industrial Research, developed with a few commercial buildings with industrial inside uses. It's undeveloped property. Applicant proposes to redevelop the site with multifamily and ground floor retail. So they're proposing a planned development district to allow those specific residential and non-residential uses under WMU5, and they default to the standards of WMU5, walkable mixed use zoning, and that's Article 13 code. And so as such, the development and design standards will result in a predictable design outcome. The proposed development necessitates a PD in order to utilize the design standards of WMU while providing for a bonus in height if mixed income housing is included. At the time of posting, it called for 5% of units as mixed income. Development would receive that bonus in height and in stories, similar to a WMU8 district. So we'll get into my site, and these are from Google, but I will say that this is pretty accurate to the situation on the ground today. And so I'm currently at Ash and Haskell. Ash Street is a small dead-end street that dead ends at the Santa Fe right away. I'm going to move down Haskell a little bit. This is some more of that warehouse. moving closer to Perry Avenue. That's just the parking lot. I think it used to be a commercial amusement or alcoholic beverage establishment. No longer used that way. And then there's the undeveloped part of the property. And you can see Fair Park in the background, so an additional part of Expo behind. And that's the office showroom warehouse across Haskell. You can see the Dart Station in the background. More of that, the office showroom uses across Haskell. And then Garland Avenue, actually it's Grand Avenue. I think it's Garland Avenue here, begins right at the site. And so this is the intersection of Haskell and Garland. And there's a vacant office showroom warehouse on the left of that frame. Then we get into the I-30 loop right away that's undeveloped at this time. It's the exit ramp at this time for I-30. So it's still at my back. And then we're going to switch back to the Ash part. This is looking towards 30, some of the ouch buildings for the industrial uses that are on site right now. Then there's the office showroom off of Ash and South Hill Avenue. Then the underside of 30 where Hill goes under it. The dead end of the trail on the left. And that's the dead end of the trail as it exists today. So the concrete you're looking at directly behind the highway barrier is Santa Fe Trail right now, and that's the end of Ash Lane. So after the docket, I'm just going to put it all together. But after the docket, we received an open space and frontage exhibit. So it's not as detailed as the development plan, and it's mainly meant to demonstrate and clarify where primary streets are going to be designated. What would be a side lot line or side street, and that the open space is to be concentrated along the trail frontage. There are 2 sound attenuation frontages, and those are marked as the southern and the western ones due to the proximity of I-30 and Dart. So there was originally sound attenuation condition in the docket, but they've been a little tweaked and then clarified as to what facades they are required on this document. It's also meant to demonstrate that fire access, generally vehicular access is not to be within 50 feet of the trail, to add some buffering there. And then if fire access extends beyond the 50 feet of the trail, it's got to be fire only, not other kind of vehicles. And we'll explain that in the conditions, hopefully. Also meant to show the location and buffering of any amount of surface parking. And currently there's only 3 spots shown and depicted, and those are on the plan east, and they are buffered by the open space. I recognize that this chart's going to be very difficult to read unless you're on a different device, but it is here, and I will zoom in on it as necessary. But long and short of it is they use the WMU5 development standards, except they vary in height and stories when they provide that mixed income bonus, or they provide those mixed income units, and that takes them up to the WMU8 height and stories, and everything else is by and large the same as WMU8, and that hasn't changed. They haven't changed the development standards since the docket in a major way, but we did clarify that for purposes of parking setback, transparency, entrances, and blank wall, those activation standards are also going to be in effect along the right of the Santa Fe Trail right away, but not the building setback and frontage standards. Those will not be in effect along the Santa Fe Trail right away, so that there's not massing required at the trail. So mixed income housing, the docket calls for 5% at 81 to 100 AMFI, which is standard in the HMDA category, which we are in. The updated conditions call for 10% at 81 on 100. Which the applicant has agreed to. And then to quickly go back through the summary, which I did distribute, we added a new exhibit to demonstrate frontage, fire access, parking, and open space. I'm amending the MIH percentage. Further text to add additional buffering and limited vehicular access near the trail. Adjusted percentages of surface parking, clarifying that must both be away from the frontages and include enhanced buffers. It previously was an or statement. Minor clarification of district to sub-district to district, amending that open space percentage from 8 to 10%. So an increase there. And clarification on signs. And then stating that Santa Fe Trail Act, the Santa Fe Trail frontage should have some of the activation standards you get in WMU, but not the building massing standards. So the building won't be right up against the Santa Fe Trail frontage in the typical Article 13 sense, but it will have the activation as called for by that. And then they clarified sound attenuation applies to units facing the source of noise. So the sources of noise being defined as the freeway, 30 and the DART line. And then those measures, they have to meet a minimum degree of sound attenuation. And so those measures, there is a list of measures in the sound attenuation. Those may be the strategies that they use, but they may employ other strategies as long as they achieve that decibel range that the conditions call for. So staff recommends approval subject to conditions as briefed and Exhibit A as briefed. So have any questions?
It might shock you to know that my questions are about the residential proximity zone. It's not clear to me, your chart of comparison with WMU5 includes the proximity slope. It's not clear to me whether, as the PD is worded, it applies or not, but in any event, my question is there anything that would trigger the single family slope within a very long distance of the site? I couldn't see anything.
No, it's by and large, it's either PD, mixed use PD, the PD 298 to the south. I'm sorry, that's not a good exhibit. The PD 1002 to the west. Then there's industrial to the north along, along Haskell. So
Pretty much a good point then.
typically, no.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes, I have a question about sidewalks. Was it intentional that the PD say that the sidewalks along Haskell have to be 6 feet?
Yes, so I believe the conditions call for a minimum of 6 feet unobstructed width. In addition to a planting zone that's typically required in Article 13.
Oh, she may be coming back. Okay, we can come back to.
Maybe she's trying to do the whole mute and then accidentally left.
Commissioner Standard, we'll come back to that.
Is she back?
Oh,
Could you hear my?
Commissioner, I heard your question. I take it you might not have heard my answer.
No, I did
But
not.
the
Everything froze up.
The answer is that the conditions do call for a minimum 6 foot sidewalk unobstructed on Haskell, as well as other frontages.
Okay, so the intention is that they're supposed to be unobstructed on all streets?
Yes,
Okay, well, I
on
don't
all
think
streets. It's not,
The
and
P-
it's, I'm sorry, it's not clear that there will be other frontages after the I-30 rebuilds, but if there were, it calls for 6 foot unobstructed on those.
Okay, well, I think the way the PD is written now, the word unobstructed is not included in those all other streets and frontages other than Haskell.
On the other streets,
Right. It just says 6 feet. It doesn't say unobstructed. At least the
Right.
version that I'm looking at.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so typical sidewalk standards will still apply there in terms of what they're required to do on them. That said, there's currently no other frontages likely. They're not depicted on the plan, and likely there won't be other street frontages. But I recognize what you're saying.
Okay, thank you.
You, Commissioner Stannard, Alderman Commissioner Wheeler.
Okay, yeah, I have two questions. The first one is, you said you increased the open space requirement from 8 to 10, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, then I guess my question is the other, because they have an 80% lot coverage, is the other 10% the landscape that they must provide, or are you putting the landscape in that open space?
They have to meet Article 13 landscaping, and they have to meet the Article 13 definition of open space. And so the open space and the landscaping can overlap, given certain circumstances. But that doesn't mean that if it's lot coverage 80, that doesn't mean that they don't have to do a certain amount of landscaping. They still have to meet their landscaping. And if they couldn't swing it with their lot coverage, they'd have to decrease their lot coverage, not go up to 80. But I think what you're getting at is open space and landscaping oftentimes are the same or can be the same, but open space in Article 13 can also be pedestrian spaces, other kinds of plazas and things like that.
Okay, got it. Okay, here's my second question. Okay. And tell me, what I'm asking you is to clarify something for me. We've got a building, it's got mixed income housing. It's sitting at I-30. Okay. It's gone from 5 stories to 8, which is not a huge increase. Okay, it's right on the Santa Fe Trail. It's right by the DART station. Okay. And it's by office showrooms, and there's no RPS factor. Do you see any pending issues or problems existing or unmet conditions with this property, this site at this point?
No, I mean, I'm not sure if you're getting at something specific or just kind of, see what I'm thinking. I would say one of the challenges was like knowing how I-30s, we know I-30 is going to be rebuilt. Those plans shift a little bit as time goes on. So we've been trying to work around that and have our language be as flexible, but also as predictable as we can. So I have good confidence that this zoning will be appropriate and not create issues for the site specifically. It's also very similar to the PD across I-30.
But there are no outstanding issues as far as you're concerned, as the planner on this project?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Wheeler, Alderman Commissioner Anderson.
Okay, so I was made aware of this particular project as far as briefed on it on Tuesday. As I know that the surrounding has IR zoning and those different things, but the community itself, how the community, we haven't, I don't think that, is there a true picture of showing that this is a mostly single family, smaller apartment complex area, even though it sits on Haskell, the residential around it doesn't, that this large scale of a project, how was that taken into consideration to those homes that are adjacent to this area? Because I know the range that we should be looking at, but in this particular area, it looks as this particular area is single family homes or small scale apartment complexes or even some townhomes, and this is the opposite side of 30, not the other. I mean, this is on the southern side of 30, adjacent close to the car park.
Okay, so I follow the big picture of what you're saying.
Could you repeat that?
Could you repeat that?
So the issue is, well, we've heard a lot. So my concern is that we've heard a lot about what is the commercial zoning surrounding this, and that the commission is not being briefed on the residential zoning that is in adjacent to it or in close proximity to it. It does not. How was it took into consideration? How does that fit in? Because from the calls that I got over the last 2 days, this does not fit in to, this doesn't fit into the residential scope of the community in close proximity to this site.
Yeah, I follow what you're saying. I believe, and so
Let me say it feels that part of the look. It looks like the beginning of Bishop Art onto the community surrounding it.
okay, yeah, I understand. I would say that it's consistent with the mixed use that's to the south and to the west. It was evaluated as distinct from the residential areas that are further afield. And it also is providing a degree of retail that it would be, that would be supportive potentially of single family homes, providing additional neighborhood destinations, providing additional employment at the retail component, and additional access to the trail as well for better activation there. So I would say that is what it offers towards the residential that's further afield. Does that answer what you're getting at?
I don't think. I mean, so riding the community riding the area for the last 2 days, I would totally be saying it is not, because it is the scale, the magnitude of this project, upwards of 7 stories, taking up mostly over the whole lot. It does not fit into that community, and even from the engagement 5 to. It doesn't feel like it fits this particular community. The scale of it. It doesn't fit. The scale of it doesn't fit the community.
Yeah, I would say that it does fit the scale for the immediate area, and that maybe in the big picture, it's part of a gradient towards the higher density, towards the south, towards the west. But that's how we've evaluated it thus far.
So our evaluation is based off we understand and what the feet from the property or whatever, but these type of projects affect more than just the immediate area. It sets off a spiral that changes the whole community. And it's just not the Jubilee community. You have that whole South Dallas Fort Park area that is adjacent. That this is a large scale. This developer usually builds on the outskirts, closer to Deep Ellum, and those areas. It's like moving Deep Ellum further into the community. How I can't see how it fits the community. I just can't.
Is there a question in there, Commissioner Wheeler?
The question is, I guess the question has been answered. That really there is not consideration for the immediate community, the actual residential community that is adjacent to this, because it's not that far. They're less than a mile away. So no, I guess not.
Okay. Commissioner Anderson.
My questions kind of revolve, some of the questions, one of them you answered in terms of what is the mixed use component. And you said, so there is walkable retail that'll be a component of this project?
Yeah, so there's a couple layers of it. It's walkable mixed use zoning, which in its simplest form does allow mixed use with residential buildings with ground floor retail. It's where they're not fixed into a specific concept by this zoning. We've had this exhibit clarifying where a number of things will be. So to lead, the development, or excuse me, the WMU allows a development that does have ground floor retail as well as other kind of not accessory, but general retail and commercial throughout the site. More specifically, this concept, they're talking about a smaller retail building near the trail to provide activation there. And that would be authorized by this zoning, as well as the multifamily.
Well, my concern is, it seems to turn its back on Haskell and the remaining portions of the community. I mean, I understand paying some attention to the Santa Fe Trail, considering there's been a lot of investment there. But when we look at the future development of the area and trying to make it walkable, a lot of people will be coming through Haskell or through the surrounding tributary streets. And I wanted to make sure that the areas along Haskell had some frontage, and not only Santa Fe Trail be considered frontage, because it's important to include, I think, the regular city streets and not really kind of turn your back on them. In terms of transparency, I think that well, let me back up. Has there been any consideration to any of the area plans that have been created that kind of project, what the future development of that area would be?
Yes, I'll speak to a couple of your points, and that's a great point. Where you're concerned with the Haskell frontage. So the Haskell frontage is also considered, per the conditions, per the plan, and per Article 13, a primary frontage. So by no means can the property turn its back on Haskell, because it's also a primary frontage, and it's going to have required building massing actually be pushed more towards Haskell than anything else. And the activation standards, the blank wall, the transparency, the entrances are also going to be similarly required along Haskell. So we've designated that activation should be on the trail frontage, but it's also built in to be required by Article 13 along Haskell as well. Our side frontage is actually in the west, and if anything's going to have less frontage and less activation, it would be that one. But we have a high degree of transparency and activation on both the trail and on Haskell required by how the conditions are written. And
Okay,
then
it doesn't.
go
ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, you were also asking about the area plans, but if you needed a clarification on that, please go ahead.
No, I was just saying in terms of the front yard being considered. So it would have Santa Fe Trail in addition to Haskell as the front yard. I thought I read somewhere where it said to consider the Santa Fe Trail as the front yard, but so are you saying that it is in addition to Haskell being a front yard? I think it was on one of the other slides.
Yeah, so actually originally the primary frontage was only Haskell, and so that meant that activation and massing would be concentrated at Haskell. We, in the docket changes, said trail frontage shall also have those activation measures that we're talking about, but not as much of the massing requirements along the trail. So it faces two ways. Article 13 has an ability to kind of have multiple frontages, whether they're activations frontages as we've kind of refined them, or full frontage, primary frontages. You can have multiple, depending on what your block looks like. This is a weird block, that's for sure. But that gave us the ability to refine where we wanted to put our frontages through some means of clarification. But absolutely, Haskell shouldn't be ignored as a backyard or anything, and it's going to be one of the two primary frontages in certain terms.
Will they have retail components on Haskell? I know they'll have entrances and those requirements, but do they plan on having retail also on Haskell, or do you know? And that's my last question.
They may. That's going to be allowed under the WMU ground floor retail with windows and activation. They may. I think informally they've stated that the main retail component is at the trail, but nothing precludes them from ground floor retail on Haskell
Yeah, that's just my biggest concern is that some of that activation through some of the retail or some of the more active spaces be allowed on Haskell. And I know that we really don't have any control over that, but I just wanted to state those concerns. And I appreciate your responses, Mr. Pepe, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Popkin.
Yes, a couple questions. Can we talk a little bit about the parking requirements? I know we're near DART on the trail.
Yes.
What's the difference between MU3 and MU5 and I guess existing?
No difference. So Article 13 has its parking designated by uses, and it doesn't differ between 5 and 8. That said, this PD specifically stated that its multifamily parking is going to be pegged at 1, but then it has a reduction for all uses in accordance with Article 13 reductions at, oh my gosh, it's slipping my mind. Is it 15 or? I would have my report handy if I had access to our typical materials.
Just say
I'll
leave
pull it
it.
up. Tell me what you need.
Is it 25? 15. I'm sorry. So yeah, it's in keeping with the Article 13 reduction of 15% for all uses, but they pegged their multifamily at 1, but then they can reduce from there. But the difference between MU 5 and 8 doesn't change the parking requirement. Sorry for that. I like to have my report, but we don't have much access right now.
So it's more related to the percentage of the building site that can be used for surface parking. So they may have to build up, and then it relates to whether or not they have retail as a portion of that structure.
Right, yeah.
Versus multifamily.
The surface parking, so the original posting included a limitation on the amount of surface parking that could be included, and then measures to increase the amount of surface parking have they met certain design characteristics. The amendments to the docket reduced the allowable percentage and increased increased what you have to provide in order to have more surface parking. So there's going to be a pretty high, there's going to be a pretty strict limit on the amount of surface parking. It's also shown on the exhibit. So it's going to be highly restricted of where they can put surface parking. And again, the surface parking in the base code doesn't change between WMU 8, 5, and 8. It's more about how it's situated and buffering. But in the changes that we made, we reduced the percent of surface parking that they can put. I hope that helps.
And so the number, like the minimum number of required spaces for multifamily units is the typical 1 space per unit?
It's 1 space per unit minus the 15% that applies to all uses because of the dark proximity. And that's kind of supposed to mirror the Article 13 system. But there's not a minimum of single spaces. They will, as they increase their amount of units, they'll have to increase their amount of spaces. As they decrease their units, they'll decrease the amount. But there's not a fixed number. It's pegged to the units.
Okay, that's how the WMUs are structured. Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah,
and one
totally.
more question. Can you speak a little bit about how the Jubilee neighborhood, do they have a vision or an area plan, how that fits in with this site? Just kind of following up on Commissioner Wheeler's question. And also, can you relate that to, I know staff has an initiative to build more density at rail stations, and we have a number of rail stations that are in the midst of, if not very close to, single family neighborhoods. Can you talk a little bit about how those are coming together, how those are competing and working together, and how staff evaluated that as part of this request?
Right, yeah, so I don't believe there's a small area plan for Jubilee area or anything like that at this time. The area plan that was most used in evaluating this is the Downtown 360 plan. So Downtown 360 is about downtown and the neighborhoods adjacent. And so that one applied in this circumstance. And while it doesn't call for, that plan isn't a plan that calls for specific place types or anything like that for individual properties, but it does have principles that we applied, and those are in the report. But generally, those are calling for better activation, more walkable zoning districts, better design standards to increase, to achieve those goals, rethinking urban mobility, including addressing dynamic parking, access to multimodal transportation, which is the case here with the trail and the DART access. So that is the plan that we most applied in this use, because there's not a small area plan or a neighborhood plan for the residential that's further northeast.
Okay.
Not yet.
And was there consideration to how, I mean, I guess we're not supposed to really take into account previous zoning cases in an area, but I'm wondering how this, potentially 8-story building could impact the single family homes just a few blocks away. Is there any sense for what the vision for the neighborhood is, and whether the 360 plan included any kind of like density recommendations or any kind of encroachment ideas, or is there any sort of vision for this neighborhood and how we contextualize density in in a very central part of town near all of the multimodal transportation aspects that you mentioned, while also being considerate of the single family historic neighborhoods nearby? Is that something you guys took into consideration, or how do we evaluate that?
Yeah, so a couple of things. So the plan, the larger plan for the area, doesn't give us specific guidance on land use at a granular scale or a more local scale. We don't have a plan for that at this time. So again, it was more principle based. But if there is a place to locate density, it's typically along major transportation resources, including trails and rail transit stations. So in terms of the big picture and principles and how it fits into that plan, I think it is appropriate with that. In terms of the impact of density, it's a contingent increase in height, right? It is contingent on the provision of mixed income housing, which the city has identified as a worthy goal of city projects as well. So they would get that height that would be similar to the districts to the west. It's also worth remembering that height and intensity. In terms of height and intensity, this is an IR district at this time. That's a 200-foot height maximum and significantly more intense. So I'm taking a look. We're evaluating it based on benefits of the project, but also the removal of potential negative impacts of the current zoning, which is the by right industrial.
Okay, that helps. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Houserath.
I'm trying to understand the configuration of the site. We don't have the development plan, but so when I look at the exhibit on the screen, there's a portion of the site apparently it's not represented. Because what I see on page 1-19 of the case report, it kind of goes to the upper left. So what can you help me understand?
Yeah, and you're right, and part of that is due to the fact that zoning extends into the right of way. But short answer is that's part of land that will be allotted to the new I-30 expansion. So they're going to lose. You see that there's kind of an out parcel that's slotted to be part of that I-30 plan. So they have made their plan as best as they can based on the dimensions of the lot that they're gonna have after 30 is doing its thing.
Okay, so the vertical development's occurring on what we're looking at there on the screen.
That's correct. And our massing is pretty predictable in an Article 13 zoning. So we have an idea of where that will be in terms of the massing and frontage. So, but yes, that.
On the left side, 25-foot fire lane,
26 foot fire lane.
And so tell me about Ash Lane. Is it immediately left of the fire lane or does it go away?
I think that Ash, it would be around.
The fire lane is Ash.
I think Ash would be kind of in the current day, in the present day. That was terrible. Sort of about there. Just to get the geometry right. Maybe I got it off. But point being is Ash, not much will remain out of it after the rebuild. So they're going to have to build in their fire access themselves on site. And so Ash is not becoming their fire access. This is a private fire access as it's depicted. But likely Ash is not going to be here. So it's a side. And that it's unclear if that's going to be TxDOT's fair right away or a frontage. But as a result, they've planned on doing their own private fire access there.
What I'm trying to get to is on the lower left of this diagram or the southwest quadrant of the site, it appears that the manufacturing use is going to remain. And their access depends upon Hill Avenue and Ash Lane. And so is there anything about this application that compromises the access and functionality of that remainder use?
This is not going to be able to change the access for those other properties because they're not able to change Ash and Hill themselves. Rather, their fire access is to provide for themselves, and the lack of access being changed by TxDOT. So my understanding is, and I always take things with a grain of salt with State Transportation Agency, but that warehouse is also likely to not.
That's part of the line we're taking for the improved I-30.
Yeah, it's there right now, but likely not for long. Go ahead. Please.
Follow up on that. Has transportation staff reviewed this as a part of both this project as well as the planned I-30 reconfiguration?
They have.
And is it correct that part of the I-30 reconfiguration is lowering of I-30, which then puts some parcels, for instance, I believe you showed the current exit ramp is probably going to come back to the community, but Ash and the adjacency here is actually going to be lowered in terms of its relationship to this site.
It's a lowering and a widening, but it would also straighten out their access for ramps like this. So feasibly, this is likely surplus for development. And so you kind of gain developable land up here probably, but lose it down where that warehouse and Ash and Hill are. So again, it's that uncertainty is built in or called for a degree of the flexibility. But we've been trying to plan around that it's going to look, the frontages here, there, and here, it'll look very different soon.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, I follow up.
Please.
So generally, this site, it's bounded by I-30 and it's because of our rotated street grid and geometries here. If we think of I-30 as being to the west,
Yeah.
so I-30 is going to be reconfigured, we have a general sense that can change. So that's our western frontage. Our southern frontage is the existing Santa Fe Trail and the DART line that then sweeps around along Perry and is the DART station at Fair Park, that's our most proximate DART connection.
Yes.
Then Haskell comes down, creates kind of the triangle, and I'm gonna call it the north side of the site, which is what we see here. I don't know why I said Haskell when I said that. It then turns and extends almost eastward. And again, this is a function of how all the different configurations are coming together. So this site, it's only access, vehicular access is Haskell, is that correct? Because the parcel that's just to the east of this is still DART right of way. And it's the trailhead for the Santa Fe Trail today.
Yes, in the long run, and that's actually something that's caused a necessity for the trail access. You know, this is going to be access from likely the one legitimate city street, but then at the same token, if we can have pedestrian and bike access from on the backside for residents, for users from this property, then that's good. But from a vehicular sense, it's going to be Haskell's the only shot. But yeah, based on renderings and schematics, it's going to look more like central here than it does now. We're going you go on Haskell, you're going under 30. It's going to look more like the portion of central we all know and love between Lemon and Mockingbird or something like that. Lowered, bridged, and then service road. I should also throw in there.
And so as a part of this, I guess, is that partly why the trail frontages are required? Because of the way that Article 13 is written, there's no consideration of a trail frontage. Could you speak to how that was designated as a primary street?
Not considered a street. Frontages are places where properties in Article 13 meet streets. If it's not considered a street, it's a yard. Or a rear yard, and we didn't want that from an access perspective, from an activation perspective. So that's what called for the semi-designation of it as a primary frontage in some senses, but not a massing perspective. So I hope that answers what you were getting at.
And I think that was one of the questions that Commissioner Anderson was talking about. Essentially, how is the project going to be required to be oriented? It essentially has two frontages, one on Haskell, one on the trail, and then the side streets that would, again, apply to generally future I-30, and then to the east side where there's a little remainder parcel for the DART
space.
Trailhead.
Yes. Yeah, your frontage and massing is pretty prescribed along Haskell. Your Haskell space has got to have 70% frontage up close to the street. The side yard or side street frontage is going to be reduced. And then we said that for the massing purposes, it's more like a rear yard in the back, but not for activation purposes. So buildings close to Haskell, as it should be in Article 13, maybe a little more rambly and open space in the rear, but not without the activation of transparency and entrances and access.
The minimum number of access points, primary access points, transparency, changes in the facade, so that we're not going to end up with just a straight blank facade on either one of these frontages. Is that accurate?
And parking setback. All of those plus that.
Thank you. Second question on transportation. Are you aware if there's been an engineering study authorized for Haskell to consider a two-way conversion for Peak and Haskell?
I'm not aware. David's here. He might know more, but I'm not aware.
Certainly asking that question later. I understand that is something that has been authorized and I think is in the queue. And again, that would speak to how this project might develop in the future and strengthen its connection both to communities to the east and to the west on each side.
That makes sense based on what the information you're providing to me intuitively that it would support this project.
And then can I just a couple questions on the density. So what's on the ground today is IR. So it's an industrial research, has a lot of pretty heavy uses that are allowed within it. What's being proposed here and moving it to walkable mixed use, you mentioned that it's similar to the projects to the west and to the south. So the west is the east side PD. Do you know what the maximum height of that PD is allowed for? Or do you have any background on that PD and when it was adopted?
It's been a while since I reviewed that, and I can't immediately tell you if it's based on WMU5 or 8. If you know the answer, you can tell.
I don't think it's actually an MU based, but it has some pretty strong requirements that speak to activation walkability. And are you aware that its purpose statement was to allow for the introduction of residential uses? Similar to this, it was predominantly industrial zoning at the time and was trying to foster the ability for additional residential uses.
Yes, absolutely. That I have seen that part of or I remember that part of the PD well, and that was pretty clear. I think that it's in that case, PD 1002 is moving that direction in terms of what's on the ground, correct? And I would also throw in PD 269, which is a mixed use PD, and has fostered a transition from industrial to mixed use, and that's in place south of the trail, and it's occurring in reality in 269 as well to the south.
And 269 is the developed
Yes.
district.
Mm-hmm.
And is its height generally in this area maximum of 200 feet? Does that sound correct? I know you don't have access.
That's the mixed use. So it's a mixed use tract in the Deep Ellum PD, and it is that I believe is correct. That PD 269 is mixed use PD, and it has pretty high densities relative to other mixed use districts.
And so essentially, we've got some higher density that's maybe responding to other proximity that's stepping down as this is moving forward. And then as it's, I guess the staff has evaluated this, and I think you mentioned this, so it's perhaps not what is on the ground today, but in terms of what is potential future development. Just based on the geometry of the site, is this site essentially bisected between the single frontage on Haskell, the single frontage on Perry, having the trail and the dart line, and having I-30? Can you speak to how staff evaluated this, and is this a good site for residential development?
I do think so, on multiple grounds, and you're exactly right. We as staff almost never just look at what's on the ground. We look at potentials. What's entitled by right, and they're entitled to, the other property owners are entitled to quite a bit to the south, to the west. And so we recognize that those are going to change realistically over time. And it's got good infrastructure to support multifamily. It's got good infrastructure to support retail uses that can be accessed by residents nearby, future residents nearby. And then ultimately provide quality of life for the residents on the individual property itself. So.
And then just one final question for you, Mr. Chair. So if you look a little bit further to the north of this property, it's currently zoned CS. And then once you get to Carroll, which is a little bit further, so P comes across, Carroll's further. And once you get to Carroll, it really does move to predominantly residential zoning. So we've got a lot of CS. We have some existing residential that's probably on the ground that doesn't reflect the current zoning. But really, once you kind of get, it's even almost at Ann Street, is really when we start getting into a lot more residential character. We're right there to the Park Community Center. Is that kind of the context of that, sort of surrounding, I think as Commissioner Wheeler was saying, there's a strong residential community that's nearby.
Yes, and I won't negate that at all. Whether they're conforming with commercial zoning and they're residential, I won't negate that by any means. On the other hand, I would say it supports the residential community because it removes the uncertainty of an IR zoning and uncertainty of the industrial lot.
And then one final question, I said the last one, but one more. We mentioned that this is a planned development district that's proposed, it's using WMU as the base. Could you speak to why it needed to be considered as a PD in lieu of just doing base zoning with WMU?
Yes, because Article 13 has a lot of design standards that support city goals that I know planners in our team would support, planners on other teams that support us would support. And so those are certainly desirable design goals, and they're also flexible and sort of, they're pre-built, they're ready to go, and they work well on a lot of properties. So there's that side that it would be a positive design outcome, a predictable design outcome under Article 13. Then Article 13 doesn't have the mixed income housing development bonus as a built-in component of it. So we've married the two in this circumstance, where you get the predictable design outcome of one, a provision of minimum mixed income housing. On the other hand, when we marry them using the PD tool. So yes, that's why this approach was used and why it was employed to get a good design outcome plus a requirement for mixed income housing and also tying the height to that bonus.
And also the trail has a frontage, which is not contemplated within the Article 13 requirements.
Yep, that took more work. And we improved, in my opinion, how that is addressed. And so the PD in that case was a tool for ensuring that.
Yeah, I like that you married those two, and I have a question. Okay, here's my question, and I might have to wait for the applicant this afternoon, but I'm just curious. Were there any community meetings that you know of in regard to this site?
I do believe there was multiple community meetings with different groups and stakeholders. I don't know the individual ones.
And secondly, did the planning department receive any negative letters or anything? Because
I didn't receive any written comments
correspondence
or other kinds of correspondence. No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, commissioners, before we move on? Commissioner Wheeler, please, question. Commissioner Wheeler, question?
Yes. I know that Jubilee doesn't have a actual per se area plan. Did you not consider the area plan for the South Dallas Fair Park in this consideration, which Jubilee takes part of?
My understanding is this is outside of the South Dallas Fair Park area plan. So I didn't evaluate it on those grounds. They may, I'm not sure, but their neighborhood may be included in that, and that's valid for consideration there. But if I recall this one, it's not part of that boundary.
So I do also know that there were community meetings, but I think that what was the attendance of the community meeting? How many in the attendance was the community meeting?
I'm not aware. I wasn't present.
From my understanding, it was 5 or less. Were any of the businesses in the area, were any meetings with the business owners in the area? Especially since this is a project that is going into an industrial research area.
I did not receive any comments from business owners.
Okay.
Thank you. Last question, commissioners. Your case number 2. Thank you, Mr. Pepe.
Good morning, Commissioners. Can you hear me? Everybody's back home. Is it good? Can you hear me? Commissioners?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Yes, we can hear you.
thank you so much. So this is case number Z223207. It's an application for a specific use permit for a private school on a property that's on R7.5A single family district that's located on the south corner of Eastern Road and East Lake Highlands Drive, and it's approximately 4 acres. As I was saying, is at an intersection of few neighborhoods, all the Lake Highlands neighborhood and Lockwood are the ones who stand out. It's in Far East Dallas. You can see on the aerial and on the zoning map, on the aerial, you can see it's surrounded by single family, different type of single family uses. To the northwest is a public school, it's a junior high. The site is currently developed with the church, and it's right behind the Dixon Branch Creek. And on the right side of the screen, you'll see the zoning is mainly R75 surrounding, but there's a PD for the public school, and then a TH1 to the east for the single family, different textiles in the single family area. Pictures around the site starting around on East Lake Highlands. This is the site, as you can see on the lower part of East Lake Highlands. This is across the street, a single family. This is the church a little bit up on this Lake Highlands. This is a view for the public junior high, the corner of Lake Highlands and Easton. Across the street, single family. This is the beautiful side of the church facing Easton. This is down Easton. You can see the parking lot, and they also have this red building is also part of the church. On site, the parking lot on the south side, and then the side that's facing East Lake Highlands. There's already a playground on the site. This is the proposed SUP site plan, which is mainly the existing situation. There are no proposed changes to the existing conditions. The applicant is proposing to use a portion of the church, which is exactly half of the square footage, for a school that pre-K to 6th grade. And they have enough room to do all the drop off and pick up on site. They submitted a small PMP that's attached, is gonna be attached to this one, and you can see they're proposing to come in on East Lake Highlands Drive and get out of Eastern Road. As far as what they can do compared to the standards for R75, again, no changes to the site. It's pretty much whatever is there and what is there, and complies with everything that the code requires. The staff recommendation is approval for a 3-year period with eligibility for automatic renewals for additional 2-year periods, subject to a site plan and traffic management plan and conditions.
Very much. Questions? Any questions on this item? Sure. Yes, please.
I just have a clarification on page 2-8. Okay, that's the conditions. Traffic management plan, A, says public school, you actually say private schools. You'll fix that, I don't know, thank you, I apologize. We use the same condition, we use the same standards for what we use for ballot safety, so this is an exact, it's an example of that.
Thanks for that. Any other questions? Yeah, please.
Are you aware that a community meeting was held on this case and there were no significant concerns or opposition?
I'm aware now, thank you. Mr. Chair.
Yes, sure.
One other question, within the case report on 2.2, it says that the students shall not exceed 138 students. TNP, it refers to 150, do you know if there's?
Yes, I think we are proposing it, yeah, interested. I think they were proposing to start with lot 38 at the beginning, but I think they are proposing to extend a little bit, so that's why they have a maximum in the TMU one.
Does that add an additional classroom?
They have a maximum in the TMU of 10 classrooms.
And that is consistent with the kids, again, it's just, it's on the 12 and 138, 150 is 12, so that's why I just want to make sure.
And if we need to change for a little bit, the outcome will tell us the last thing after that, it was not 50 with 10. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions?
I have one.
Please, Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes, Ramesh Udrea. If you could elaborate a little bit about the staff's thinking about the recommendation for the time period, the 2 and 2, you know, the 2-year initial approval and the 2-year auto renewal. It seems to be going the opposite direction of what we've been getting for recommendations for time periods on schools.
Yes, and thank you for the question. It was my big question for the applicant. It's what the applicant proposed and requested. Staff is comfortable to increase the time frame if you wish so. So we're thinking, again, the applicant wanting 2 years and to come back to staff for an hour review, what we evaluate if they comply with it. It's, we just responded to their request, but thank you for the question. That was my first comment for the applicant.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. It is 11:23, and that concludes the briefing of Nancy Huckman. Enjoy your lunch. See you at the horseshoe at 12:30.
It's such a good, it's so hot. So because when the north was down, I had to use a picture of you. In a frenzy. Yeah, that's right. But yes. Understand.